You are listening to a full audiobook-style summary of Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erikson. This narration explores the man behind the book, the ideas that shaped it, and a careful, practical walkthrough of every major chapter, finished with examples, exercises, and real-life scripts you can use to bring the lessons to life. Take a breath. Find a comfortable place to listen. Let the ideas settle in as we open the pages of a book that, at its heart, asks us to see each other with more patience and less judgment. Part 1. The Man and the Mission. Thomas Erikson is not a novelist. He is a behavioral analyst, a speaker, and a consultant who spent years studying communication in the day-to-day. He observed coaches, managers, teams, families, and politicians. He watched how arguments began, often over small things, and how misunderstandings widened until relationships stalled, projects failed, and simple conversations turned into long-term resentments. Erikson's interest was less in labeling people and more in identifying patterns. Over time, he realized people fall into recognizable communication styles. These styles repeat across cultures and industries. They have different priorities, different fears, and different languages of trust. His book, Surrounded by Idiots, published first in Swedish and later translated into many languages, has a provocative title that makes people stop and listen. Many readers arrive expecting a manual full of clever categorization. What they find is a practical handbook for emotional intelligence. Erikson didn't intend to call people idiots. The title is an intentionally blunt mirror. It captures our everyday frustration when people behave in ways we can't understand. Erikson's mission in the book is simple: to build a common vocabulary. If we can name the patterns we see, we can adapt. If we can adapt, we can communicate. If we can communicate, we can cooperate. The book uses 4 colors, red, yellow, green, blue, to describe 4 archetypal ways of being in the world. Each color is not a cage, but a lens. Each lens brings clarity when you learn to look through it. Part 2. The 4 colors. A deep introduction. Erikson invites us to imagine a palette of communication. There are 4 dominant colors in this palette. They are not decorative. They are functional. Each color maps to a set of preferences, priorities, strengths, and blind spots. We begin with the color that most often sets the pace: red. Red stands for drive, decisiveness, and a love of results. If life were a race, reds would be the runners who set the pace and demand that the field moves. They prefer direction and control. In conversation, they get to the point. They dislike waffle and small talk. They make decisions quickly. They believe slow is equivalent to indecision. To a red, time is money, and action is proof. Imagine a red in a meeting. They stand, outline a plan, and ask for the deliverables. Their language features short sentences, a firm tone, and an expectation that people follow. Their strengths are their ability to cut through noise and mobilize. Their risks are impatience, brusqueness, and a tendency to step over people's feelings in the rush to produce. Yellow is the next color, and it's the sunshine of the palette. Yellows are social, optimistic, and idea-rich. They invent stories, sell concepts, and bring energy to dull rooms. Where reds are focused on the finish line, yellows are fascinated by the possibilities along the way. They speak with enthusiasm, frequently using metaphors and anecdotes. They are warm, gregarious, and often the ones who connect teams through conversation. To a yellow, relationships matter, often more than process. Their strengths are contagious enthusiasm and creative spark. Their dangers are distraction, inconsistency, and a habit of overselling ideas before the details are thought through. Green is a color of calm. Greens are the anchors. They prioritize stability, loyalty, and peace. Greens keep families and teams steady. They prefer predictable routines and safe transitions. They are patient and empathetic listeners. They resist abrupt change and often will sacrifice their own preference for the sake of harmony. Greens are slow to speak in conflict because they dislike friction. Their strengths are consistency, diplomacy, and long-term loyalty. Their shadows are passivity, avoidance of confrontation, and a difficulty with rapid decision-making. Blue, finally, is the color of analysis. Blues structure, measure, and test. They are detail-oriented, methodical, and uncompromising when it comes to accuracy. To a blue, facts are lifelines. They prefer a clean plan, careful data, and minimal guesswork. Blues' strengths lie in precision, reliability, and the ability to foresee problems through rigorous thought. Their weakness can be coldness, an emotional distance that others read as criticism, and an unwillingness to commit until the picture is perfect. Erikson's idea is not to force people into boxes. Most of us are mixtures. You might be primarily blue with a touch of green. You could be mostly yellow with a splash of red. The dominant color, the color that surfaces most often under stress or in decision-making, tends to guide your interactions. Recognizing your primary and secondary colors helps you understand your default reactions. Part 3. The fundamental problem: misreading lenses. We often mislabel other people's behavior based on our own expectations. A red sees hesitation and thinks laziness. A green sees a red's bluntness and thinks cruelty. A blue sees a yellow's flights of fancy and thinks irresponsibility. Each mislabeling starts from a faulty assumption that others are similar to us. Erikson argues that most conflicts are not caused by malice, but by mismatched expectations. We punish people not for what they do, but for how their doing diverges from our script. The first step toward change is to stop assuming everyone wants the same things you want, or that they process information in the same sequence you do. If reds value speed and results, they may need to practice pausing when communicating with greens who value security and consensus. If yellows crave recognition and fun, they must learn to honor blues who need structure. If greens fear confrontation, they must learn to assert themselves. If blues need proof, they can be taught to embrace the human messiness of partial data. Language, the words we choose and the tone we use, can be the bridge or the wedge. Erikson encourages us to treat communication as translation. Translate your message into the receiver's color, not to manipulate, but to be understood. Part 4. How to identify colors in real time. Erikson gives practical cues for identifying others' colors quickly. There's no mystical test. Observe the rhythm of their words, the posture of their body, and the priorities in their statements. Listen to word choices. Reds say, now, win, results. Yellows say, imagine, great, fun. Greens say, together, comfortable, okay. Blues say, data, process, accurate. The vocabulary points you to priorities. Watch tempo. Reds speak quickly, greens slowly. Yellows have animated gestures. Blues are measured. Observe decisions. Reds leap, greens delay. Yellows ask questions that link to people. Blues analyze alternatives. Erikson also offers simple prompts to test a person's color without being intrusive. Ask, "What matters most to you on this project?" A red will answer with goals. A yellow will answer with engagement. A green will answer with team harmony. A blue will answer with quality and accuracy. It should be said clearly, these cues are probabilistic. They can mislead when people are stressed or trying to perform. But over many interactions, the pattern reveals itself. Part 5. How to talk to each color. Here we touch the most useful part of the book, adaptation. Erikson does not suggest lying or feigning a personality. He suggests small shifts, like changing the rhythm of your speech or the depth of your detail to meet others where they live. If you are speaking to a red, be brief, decisive, and direct. State goals, deadlines, and options. Avoid emotional appeals that sound vague. If you are speaking to a yellow, lead with energy and possibilities. Use stories and metaphors. Provide opportunities for collaboration and recognition. If you are speaking to a green, use supportive language and reassurance. Allow time for processing. Emphasize the stability and people-centered benefits of the plan. If you are speaking to a blue, provide facts, logic, and documented options. Offer time for review and clear steps. Avoid hyperbole and emotional coercion. Notice the subtle difference between persuasion and translation. Translation means you adjust packaging. The content remains honest. A good communicator is a faithful translator who makes it easy for the recipient to receive the truth. Part 6. Conflict, Power, and Safe Conversations. Conflict is inevitable when colors collide. Erikson maps how conflict unfolds and how to prevent escalation. Consider a scenario at work. A red manager pushes a deadline. A green team member becomes silent and withdrawn. A blue analyst sends a long, critical email. A yellow marketer complains that morale is low. Each reaction is predictable. The manager's pressure triggers the green's fear of losing stability. The blue's critique triggers the yellow's emotional response. What looks like messy behavior is simply a chain reaction. Erikson's prescription is deceptively simple. First, recognize the reaction. Second, translate. Third, address the underlying need. For the green, it's safety and clarity. The manager can reduce stress by explaining why the deadline matters and offering support. For the yellow, it's the need to feel included and appreciated. The blue can be encouraged to explain their critique gently and offer constructive alternatives. When power imbalances exist, a red boss and a green subordinate, the risk of damage is greater. Erikson recommends that people in power adopt the languages of others. The healthier the leader's translation skills, the more effective the team. Part of safe communication is also giving people permission to be different. When teams normalize color differences, when they explicitly say, "We have reds, yellows, greens, and blues on this team," the patterns become less personal. People stop feeling attacked and start feeling understood. Part 7. Self-awareness and growth. The most challenging reader of them all is yourself. Erikson insists that the starting point for change is self-awareness. Before you can translate other people's languages, you must map your own. Ask yourself, what triggers me? What do I value more? Speed or accuracy? People or outcomes? What stories do I tell myself about other people's motives? If you are a red, your shadow may be impatience that masks a fear of being ineffective. If you are a yellow, you may use optimism to hide insecurities about being valued. If you are a green, peacekeeping may disguise fear of rejection. If you are a blue, precision may hide a fear of being wrong. Erikson gives exercises to help you discover your default color. One exercise is to recall stress. Think of the last time you were pressured. What did you do? Another is to ask close colleagues or family for feedback. Their view of you is data. Use it. Once you identify your color, you can begin targeted practice. A red can practice slowing down at meetings and asking for input. A yellow can practice following through on promises with small commitments. A green can practice stating preferences clearly. A blue can practice offering ideas before they're perfect. Change does not mean abandoning who you are. It means adding range. Think of it like learning a dialect. You remain fundamentally yourself, but you gain fluency in others' preferences. Part 8. Building balanced teams. Erikson is persuasive on one practical point. Teams need a mix of colors. Imagine a startup composed only of reds, fast, messy, and eventually burned out. Or a research group of only blues, precise but never shipping. Or a charity of only greens, loving but never scaling. Each color contributes something vital. Reds bring momentum, yellows bring ideas and morale, greens bring cohesion, blues bring structure and quality. The healthy team is heterogeneous. Erikson lays out a framework for hiring, delegation, and team design. When you staff a team, look for missing colors. If you lack greens, hire for stability. If you lack yellows, bring someone who can story sell and energize. This isn't about stereotypes. It's about distributing functions in a way that mitigates risk. He also suggests rotating responsibilities. Let blues participate in brainstorming without needing the final plan. Let yellows help design structure in partnership with blues. Let greens lead continuity efforts while reds push for growth. Cross-training minds expands the team's capacity to handle complexity. Part 9. Deeper examples and scripts. Erikson's strength is in concrete examples, and this summary will borrow that practical spirit. Below are a series of sample scripts and dialogues you can use to adapt to different colors. Scenario: you need to ask your manager, likely a red, for more time on a deliverable. Speak: I want to deliver strong results. Here's what's done and what remains. If we extend the deadline by 2 days, I can ensure we meet quality standards and avoid rework. Option A gets it done now with minor risks. Option B gets it perfect with a slight delay. Which do you prefer? Why it works: short, factual, results-oriented choices. Scenario: you need to present a new idea to a yellow colleague. Speak: imagine if we could triple engagement by trying a short experimental campaign that's fun and shareable. I see 3 quick formats we can pilot next week that'd get people talking. I'd love your creative eye on which is most viral. Why it works: energy, imagination, collaboration. Scenario: you need to ask support from a green teammate who resists change. Speak: I value how steady you keep our operations. We're considering a small change to the process to reduce last-minute rushes. I want to walk it through with you and make sure it won't add stress. Could we review the steps together and see how we can keep things calm? Why it works: reassurance and inclusion. Scenario: you need to ask a blue for technical verification. Speak: here are the findings. I've included the methods, raw data, and a proposed conclusion. Could you review sections 2 and 4 for accuracy and flag any issues? I've set a deadline for your notes on Friday so we can proceed. Why it works. Details, transparency, time for analysis. These scripts are simple but powerful because they shift the framing from me-centered to you-centered. That shift is the core skill Erikson recommends. Part 10. Real-life stories. Love, family, and friendship. Erikson devotes attention to romance and family because color clashes are deeply personal there. Couples often assume shared values when what they have are different expression styles. A red partner wants decisiveness. A green partner wants security. A yellow partner craves engagement. A blue partner craves clarity. Example: a yellow spouse feels unloved because the blue partner prepares a budget and a timeline rather than say, "You are amazing." The blue partner expresses love through competence and safety. The yellow reads the behavior as coldness. Erikson's counsel is familiar. Learn the other's love language. In this case, love language is color style. If you can translate your care into their language, your relationships deepen quickly. Parenting also benefits. Children reveal colors early. Some are curious and talkative, yellow. Some are methodical, blue. Some are calm and steady, green. And some are assertive, red. Parenting strategies that align with the child's color produce less friction and better outcomes. Part 11. Social life, small talk, and community. How does one behave at parties? At community events, yellows flourish. Greens build friendships through steady presence. Blues form deep bonds through shared interests. Reds lead teams and organize events. Erikson's model gives you a roadmap. How to enter conversations and how to exit them gracefully. 2 practical rules he recommends. Notice the dominant color in the group and match either energy level or depth of detail accordingly. Protect your energy. If you're a blue drained by social life, schedule recovery time. If you're a yellow drained by solitude, plan energetic, short interactions. The model helps minimize social friction and increases mutual understanding. Part 12. Common misuses and ethical notes. Erikson warns against weaponizing the model. Labeling someone yellow and using it to manipulate is wrong. The model is a tool to increase empathy. Its ethics are simple. Use it to serve the truth, not to hide it. Also, colors are not excuses for bad behavior. A red is not permitted to bully because that's how I am. People are responsible for practicing civility across styles. Finally, culture matters. Colors show across cultures but manifest differently in different social norms. The model is a lens, not an absolute map. Part 13. Advanced applications, negotiation and leadership. For negotiators, knowing the other side's color is an advantage. Present options to reds, appeal to vision for yellows, stress fairness to greens, and provide evidence to blues. Combine soft and hard tactics based on the counterpart's style. Leadership is where the model becomes transformational. Leaders who can speak all 4 colors create environments where people feel seen and effective. A leader who instinctively addresses stability, purpose, detail, and morale will get better performance and less attrition. Erikson offers leadership exercises. Start meetings with 2 minutes of human connection for yellows and greens. State the goal, the metric, and the timeline for reds and blues. End with a clear next step and who is responsible to satisfy blues. Leaders who practice color translation routinely will notice fewer misunderstandings, more engagement, and faster execution. Part 14. Exercises to practice. Erikson gives readers short practices. Here are a few. The mirror exercise. Record a short explanation of a project. Then identify which words and tones would appeal to each color. Rehearse the same message in 4 styles. The pause exercise. Before reacting to email, pause for 10 seconds and ask, what color is the cinder likely to be? Then craft your reply to that color. The feedback sandwich, revisited. For blues, feedback should be precise and evidence-based. For yellows, feedback should begin with recognition. For greens, feedback should emphasize support. For reds, feedback should be short and outcome-focused. The team mapping. Draw a simple map of your team, marking dominant colors. Identify missing colors and assign roles to cover gaps. These exercises move the model from theory to muscle memory. Part 15. Addressing criticisms. The book has critics. Some argue the color labels are simplistic or risk stereotyping. Erikson accepts this critique and insists the model is a starting point, not an end point. The color model is useful when we treat it as a pattern language, not a personality prison. It reduces complexity to usable terms. That simplification is necessary to apply the lessons across daily life. When used wisely, the color model increases nuance. When used poorly, it flattens people into boxes. The ethical use is to maintain curiosity. What else is true about this person, rather than, this is everything about them. Part 16. The Quiet Transformations. Perhaps the book's most powerful claim is not about correct categorization, but about the quiet transformations that begin with naming. When you name the patterns, you gain distance. Distance creates choice. Choice creates compassion. Simple shifts follow. You stop taking criticism personally because you realize the critic is blue, not hostile. You stop resenting a friend's silence because you realize they're green, not uncaring. You stop being angry when a yellow forgets a deadline because you recognize their priorities are people and ideas. You now put reminders in place. These shifts create practical improvements in morale, productivity, and the quality of relationships. The results are ordinary and powerful. Fewer fights, faster projects, calmer homes. Part 17. A tactical checklist for everyday conversations. Before you speak, quickly run this checklist. Who is listening? What's their likely color? What is the goal? Decide, inform, inspire, reassure. Which tone will serve best? Direct, enthusiastic, calm, measured. What details are necessary? High level, story, reassurance, data. What time frame are you offering? Immediate action, flexible plan, timeline for review? This 5-question framework trains you to translate quickly under pressure. Part 18. The long view. Why this matters. When communities, workplaces, and families learn to translate, democracy and cooperation improve. People are less likely to demonize one another because they understand that difference is structural, not moral. Erikson's modest plea is to reframe anger as misunderstanding. When systems, from schools to hospitals, adopt color literacy, they design better processes that reduce friction and increase inclusion. Color literacy is not a cure for every social ill, but it is a practical instrument that reduces wasted energy. Misunderstanding costs time, money, and goodwill. Translation saves those resources. Part 19. Final reflections and a listening pause. If you have listened with attention, you'll notice how the model nudges you inward. The final lesson of the book is not technique, but humility. Humility. You don't know as much about others as you think. You make fewer assumptions. You ask more questions. You slow down when needed. And you appreciate the complexity of human minds. As a closing exercise, take a piece of paper and write down the dominant color you think you see in yourself. Then write one action to practice the opposite strength this week. If you're red, practice patience by asking 3 people for input before making a decision. If you're yellow, practice completion by delivering a small project to the end. If you're green, practice healthy disagreement by gently voicing a preference. If you're blue, practice action by committing to a decision before all data arrives. Growth is not perfection. It's a sequence of small, intentional acts. Part 20. Closing narrative. The world described in Surrounded by Idiots is not a static gallery of types. It's a living, evolving environment where people change contextually. At work, at home, under stress, in joy. The color model is one more map in the human toolkit. Erikson's central promise is humane and practical. Once you can name a pattern, you can alter your response. Once you alter your response, you change outcomes. That cascade, name, alter, change, is the most hopeful claim in the book. So the next time you feel the irritation rise, remember the book's simple truth. You are likely not surrounded by idiots. You are surrounded by people whose wiring differs from your own, and that difference, if handled well, is the basis of creativity, balance, and durable relationships. Thank you for listening to this complete audiobook-style summary of Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erikson.